A very good afternoon to all and one and all. On behalf of the Committee for Members in Practice of ICI, it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to today's thoughtfully curated webinar under the flagship initiative Bridging the Mindset Gap. In the era where technical excellence is given for chartered accountants, the differentiator increasingly lies in mindset, awareness, execution, and in an alignment. Today's webinar is designed to help members reflect, recalibrate, and realign their professional journeys, moving from knowledge to impact and from intention to execution. So, today's theme, the Bridging the Mindset Gap, addresses a silent yet crucial challenges faced by professionals: the gap between capability and confidence, between knowing and doing, and between ideas and sustained impact. Today's session will explore two deeply connected dimensions: art of navigating professional challenges through meaningfulness and meditation, execution and mindset, bridging the gap between ideas, intentions, and impact. Together, these sessions will offer both inner clarity and outer effectiveness, enabling members to build resilient, purposeful, and future ready practices. So, the session by the remarks by the chairman, CA Madhukar Narayan Hirgange, will be taken in the end of this session. So it's now my privilege to introduce our first eminent speaker, CA Abhay Desai ji. CA Abhay Desai is a rare blend of intellectual brilliance, professional depth, and reflective wisdom. An All India rank holder in CA examinations, he's widely respected for his work in corporate laws and in direct taxation. He has appeared in over thousand matters before the High Court's tribunals and even Honorable Supreme Court, and has several reported judgments in his credit. Beyond litigation, advisory excellence, he is a prolific author, having contributed to numerous landmark publications, including authoritative works on GST and dispute resolution. Many of these are associated with ICI and prestigious professional bodies. What truly sets CA Abhay Desai apart is his deep interest in inner dimension of professional life. Through meaningfulness, meditation, and self-awareness practices, he brings a refreshing perspective on how professional can navigate pressure, complexity, and responsibility with clarity, calm, and conscious actions. In today's first-paced professional environment, his session will help members to understand how inner stillness can become a power tool for outer excellence. We warmly welcome CA Abhay Desai ji and invite him to address the participants. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I'm grateful to Madhukar Hiregange sir, to Priyanshu ji, to the committee, to my fellow co-speaker Supriya ji, to all the participants who have gathered virtually to listen to our experiences, to our ideas, and hopefully try and create a better society and a better world. Now, let me just start the screen. Right. So, friends, normally I address on taxation matters, but as Priyanshu ji rightly pointed out, it is the inner dimension, the inner clarity, the inner calmness, the inner stability, the inner strength that makes us all face challenges, address challenges, and come out with our own uniqueness, our own approach towards life, and try and live life at the fullest, experiencing, pulling out all the capabilities which the nature has bestowed us as a human being in pursuit of excellence. So in that background, in today's session, what I believe and what is very close to me and how I have approached challenges in my professional life is what I'm going to share. So the topic is essentially governed on the topic of on the subject of mindfulness and meditation. I'll explain those concepts a little later as we move ahead in the session. But before I do that, as a lawyer, as a practicing lawyer and a chartered accountant, uh, it's always important to put a caveat. And as you can see on your screen, it's a very short presentation that I have designed. Again, because of the habit of designing presentations, otherwise this kind of session really doesn't need a PowerPoint presentation in that sense. However, as you can see probably on your screen, the caveat is that everybody has to find his or her own way. So what I'm sharing is my way, not necessary that this is the correct way or this is the only way. The whole idea of the session is to explore what are the different ways which are possible to draw the inner strength to reach that state of calmness, the state of inner well-being, so that we are able to bring out those qualities which are within us in our work, in our professional life, and meet the challenges that we face on a daily basis. So, in that sense, the caveat is that don't take my word for whatever I say. The whole idea of session is to invite you to participate, to share in what I have learned till date in my professional life in terms of mitigating the challenges, and invite you to try out the ideas that I'm going to share and see whether it works in your life. And if you feel that those ideas do not work, then I will strongly suggest to abandon those ideas. And if you feel that those ideas are working for you, then those ideas itself will take root in your being and will eventually drive you towards higher dimensions in this area of meditation. So in that sense, let me see what are the professional challenges that we face. So as you can see, there are innumerable challenges that we face. And the whole idea is first to picturize these challenges so that I can propose what can be an approach to mitigate those challenges. So in all the sessions, seminars, in our discussions in social circles, amongst our friends, etc., we always use all these kinds of words that you can see on your screen. For example, we all feel that growth is what everyone looks at, and that is number one challenge, that how do we grow? Now, as you can understand that this word growth itself is a very illusory word, in the sense that each individual will have his or her own definition of growth. As a professional, as an example, one way to look at growth is in terms of clients. Another way is to look at growth in terms of income. Another way to look at growth is in terms of areas in which one is practicing or one intends to practice. Another is one may look at growth in terms of how much time that he or she is able to carve out from the professional life, and look at profession as a means to achieve other goals in life, other hobbies in life. That would be another dimension of the word growth. So the word is very ambiguous, and that is what poses the challenge, because we may have our own tendencies of in which dimension we want to grow. But as a society, since we live in the society, so there will be multiple definitions of this word which would be imposed on us, which would be thrown at us, and that is what will create a challenge. If we are going after the field in which we love, it may be possible that it may bring lesser growth in terms of income, maybe lesser growth in terms of clients. But then when we meet people and when we see that people are talking about their incomes, people are talking about their clientele, etc., that creates a conflict, that creates a challenge, where then we become disturbed in the sense where we feel that what we are pursuing is not the right path. And that is where we then start thinking about how do I increase my clients, how do I increase my income, etc. Again, envy. This is again a very strong human emotion. In professional life, this is one of the biggest challenge that we face. The reason is that we keep meeting people who are in the same profession and who are working uh, 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 in a place which is different from our place. We may see persons who might be getting higher quality work, who might be getting more work, who might be getting work in some upcoming areas, perhaps in which we might not have explored, who might be buying fancy things, who might be staying in fancy hotels, constructing fancy houses, etc. So all of this results into envy. We always feel that something is lacking in us, and that is where we look at the society, we look at the individuals that we are aware of, and we look at their outer world, and we compare our world with their world, and that is where we feel that perhaps something is lacking, and that is what generates this emotion. Then again, we are facing challenges of confidence. In especially in a simple example is in my own field, where since we deal with laws, we deal with ambiguities, we deal with provisions which are not clear, the court judgments which are not clear enough, and that is where we always feel that how do I generate that confidence so that I can correctly advise my clients, I can correctly put up my point across various authorities or judicial authorities, as the case may be. And that is again one more challenge that we are facing in terms of how do I build my confidence? How do I confidently present myself before the society, before the clients, before the authorities? Clarity. Again, it's a mental word in a sense that we always look for clarity, because clarity, as I understand, creates action. Lack of clarity creates inaction. And that is where we always feel that we all want to be more clear in ourselves, more clear in our thought processes, so that we can take appropriate action. We can seize the opportunity. Many times we feel that because of the lack of clarity, we are not able to seize those opportunities. And that is where regret sets in. And that is where again we get into that entire mental flux of having lesser confidence, lesser clarity, and therefore getting into that cycle where we feel that we are not growing as opposed to what we intend to grow. Then team building, of course, we are not alone in our profession. So we have teams, we have partners, we have employees, we have persons who are with us. And that is where again that brings a challenge. How do we build those teams? How do we nurture talent? How do we create an environment where they also feel that they are also working with the same sense of purpose, the same sense of idea, the same sense of action, which we perhaps are working with. And that is where the challenges come about. Fulfillment, at the end of day, we are all looking at the profession as a means to fulfill ourselves, to fulfill what we are made for, as it is said, to extract maximum possible juice out of life. This life has been given to us for once, and therefore we always look at the end of day that whatever we are doing, are we fulfilling ourselves? Are we going there where we feel that every day is an enjoyment rather than as a duty towards the society? Learning, there are challenges in this area as well, because the world is evolving at a very fast pace. So we always feel that we should keep learning. But then there are challenges. How do we learn? How do we focus ourselves? What source should I refer to? Should I seek association with persons who are at a higher pedestal in the area in which I want to develop? Or do I look at and read the autobiographies of some successful persons who are in this field to see how they navigated their life, how they encountered challenges, how they solve those problems, their problems, etc. And time management, again, 24 hours is always too short for everybody. So that is where again there are challenges on that front. Managing work, again, it's a challenge in our professional life, because especially as a practicing professional, day in, day out, we start our day planning certain things, but at the end of the day, we feel that whatever we wanted to do on that day did not happen. some urgent call, some meeting, some visit by a client, etc., took up the time which otherwise we wanted to devote for a deep, meaningful work. And that is where again the conflict arises. Then there are time pressures, there are deadlines to meet, since we are in a profession where the government expects us to complete everything on the deadline. Clients expect us to complete work well before the deadlines. We also expect the work not only to be complete, but also with the quality with which we feel the work should have been done. So this again creates the challenges. Mental well-being, this is something very, very important, because we are in a profession where we are exercising our mind. That is our biggest asset. And that is where, unless properly we are able to manage our mental well-being, in a sense that we are able to create space, create experiences which enables us to refresh, to re-energize ourselves every day, so that we can approach our challenges, we can approach our work in a more meaningful fashion. Knowledge management, again, that creates a huge challenge. Day in, day out, in the profession, the kind of knowledge which is getting built is exponentially increasing. So that creates this challenge as to how do I manage this knowledge? How do I make it actionable? Because knowledge without making it actionable is, to my mind, useless. And that is where the challenge arises, that how do I manage knowledge? Digital distractions, in this day and age, everybody is bombarded by digital media. It's extremely difficult for a person to find even 1 hour on a daily basis where the person can switch off everything and just focus internally on where the person is traveling in life, where the person intends to go, introspect their own actions, their own thoughts, their own beliefs. That kind of time is very difficult to find because of the digital distraction. That creates a challenge. And now the latest challenge in terms of AI, where a lot of work that probably as a professional we are handling might will be handled by the systems, by the algorithms, which are now maturing enough to understand how our mind functions and able to replicate those tasks in a much more efficient way, in a much more cost-effective way, etc. So that is where again we'll throw a challenge. And the list is endless. This is just some of the challenge that I felt we face as a profession on a daily basis. But of course, the list is not finite. There are n number of other challenges that we face on a daily basis on a professional front. Now, this brings us to solutions. So there are a number of solutions which society will give us, which various bodies will give us. For example, someone will tell you about goal setting. Someone will tell you, if you attend some seminars, if you attend certain workshops, which are the kinds of goals that you should have. How do you set those goals? How do you make them actionable? How do you plan for achieving those goals? Again, the definition of goal, as I indicated earlier, is similar to the definition of growth, very ambiguous, very unclear, and therefore every person will have their own way of defining goal and accordingly suggesting to you how you should set your goals, etc. Then strategic thinking, you will find n number of articles, books, resources on how can you think strategically in terms of building up your professional practice, how do you gather more clients, how do you gather more work, how do you meaningfully execute your work, etc., etc. On team building, again, you will find number of resources on how do you build up the team, how do you create your internal environment in your office, etc. Public speaking, because that is again one of the essential part of a professional's life, because day in, day out, we keep interacting with people, we keep interacting with clients, authorities, etc. So a part of skill that is required to address is public speaking. Again, there are galore of material on that. Art of reading comprehension, again, number of sources on how you should read, how you should comprehend, how you should read, for example, the legal provisions, the field from which I come, or how do you read the judgments, etc., and how do you comprehend them, how do you apply them in different situations that you face. On time management, again, there are so many aspects, so many different techniques, so many different ways which are taught, available resources on how you can manage your time. Networking, again, there are so many resources which are there. As far as creativity is concerned, again, you will find host of resources on how you can unleash your creativity, etc. Right. So the whole idea of taking you through these two slides is to understand that there are challenges and there are solutions. And the solutions are often contradictory. Solutions are often confusing. The reason is simple, that each solution is designed considering the person who is making the solution, who is giving the solution, not the person who is going to apply those solutions, not the person who is going to eventually use those solutions to meet the individual challenge that the person faces. So the problems with the solutions are that the solutions which are available, one of that might fit your requirement, but all of that will not fit your requirement, because the solutions which are available, which are there in the society, they do not consider your own uniqueness. They don't consider as a human being who you are, what are your, what is your inner dimension, in the sense that which solution suits you, which solution gels with you, which solution solves your effectively the problem which you are facing, or challenges that you are facing in the profession. So the problem with solutions are that it ignores the uniqueness. It ignores the starting place. There are solutions which are there, which are made considering or assuming that you are at a certain place where you are meeting those challenges, and accordingly make suggestions on how do you address those challenges. But your starting place of meeting those challenges could be different. You might not have comprehensively thought for yourself that according to you, what is the definition of growth. If you take time out, if you think for yourself, essentially shutting the entire world out, that what essentially to you is the definition of growth, what essentially you feel from your inner being as to what brings more happiness to you, what brings more joy to you. Is it more work? Is it more clients? Is it different work? Is it more money, etc.? So unless you yourself are not able to define the exact nature of the challenges which you are facing, the solutions which are available in the society will not be able to meet those challenges, because your starting place is completely different from the starting place which is assumed by those challenges, by those solutions. Solutions may assume that you are looking for more work. Accordingly, there will be proposals on how you can increase your professional practice, how you can increase your clientele, etc. Solution might be presuming that you are in need for more money. Solution might be presuming that you are in need of better nature of work, or you are in need of a geographical expansion of your practice. But that all depends on where you are. So that is the second problem with the solutions. Solutions are creating conditioning, because each solution, as I indicated earlier, is based on certain assumptions and presumptions as to who you are. But you may not be like that. And that is where it creates conditioning. And the moment it creates conditioning and the solution is thrusted on you, and you try and feel that this is the solution that I have to work around, and that is how I will be able to meet those challenges that I am facing, then that creates a conflict. A conflict in the sense that as a human being, if you look inward deeply, you may not be caring much for the money or for the fame. You may be a person who needs more creativity. You may be a person who needs more variety of work, not monotonous work in a larger volume to make more money. That may not be who you are. But the problem is that the society focuses on, let us say, the solution focuses on one part of the dimension, which you are not. And you ignore that this solution is not meant for you, and try and replicate those solutions, try and apply those solutions. That creates an inner conflict, because in your inner being, that solution is not working for you. But because the way in which the solution has been projected, the way in which the solution has been thrusted on you, the way in which you have been taught since your childhood days that this is the solution, this is how the society values things, this is how the society looks at people, and that creates that conflict. And in that state of conflict, you are divided. You don't know in which dimension or in which area you should go. And that is where it creates that fatigue. It creates, as I indicated earlier, the mental well-being gets affected. And that results into a host of other more and more challenges when we start applying the solutions which are actually not made for us. Then this kind of conflict dilutes the effectiveness because your being is not ready for accepting those solutions. Your inner dimension is looking at something else, but because you are not clear enough as to what your inner dimension is, and you apply the solution which is given by the outer world, the conflict results into the dilutes the effectiveness of the solution, and that is where misery is created. Then if you apply the solution, getting lost is very easy because for the time being you will feel that this solution is there, and with every solution you will experience that this is a solution which can solve my problem, which can help me meet challenges, but without consciously understanding what your problems are, what your challenges are. And if you just see the focus on solution and start applying those solutions, getting lost is very easy because the solutions appears to be fancy. The solutions which are given by the outer world appears to be that indeed it can solve your problems, it can solve all your challenges, and that is where you get lost in pursuing those solutions without realizing what actually the problem is. And that is where again it creates, and after a point in time you realize that this solution did not work, and again you come back to square one, and again you start finding some another solution, then someone else will suggest some other solution, again you will try it out, and that is where again the cycle will repeat. This creates a flimsy sense of solving the challenges, but that again doesn't work because at the end of the day you understand that you are where you started. Then the last is hidden agenda. Each solution has their own, the person who are proposing the solutions may have their own agenda. A person who is proposing a solution may feel that the real growth is financial, and therefore the solution which is proposed would be with that person may be innocent. I'm not saying that that person has an hidden agenda in the sense that the person wants to hurt you or harm you, but that person may not be conscious enough to understand that it is with this presumption that the person feels that only the financial goal is what the growth essentially would mean, and therefore all the solutions which are given by that person would be in that direction, is something which you, when you are applying those solutions, may not be aware of, and that is again creates the conflict. So that is where this brings us to the today's topic, that in this background where we have innumerable challenges and we have innumerable solutions, but the crisis of the present times is that the solutions are not adequate. Solutions are often contradictory. Solutions are often in conflict. Solutions ignore you as a person you are. It ignores your individuality. It ignores your uniqueness. It ignores essentially what you are really meant for. It ignores what you are really supposed to do, in the sense that what your inner dimension is, what your inner world is. And that is where what, as Krishnamurti rightly puts it, that in each moment is a challenge, and to meet this challenge inadequately is a crisis in living. So this is where we are today, when we are meeting these challenges inadequately because we are not aware or conscious as to what essentially are the challenges before us. And that is where he says that we don't want to see that these are crises, and we shut our eyes to escape from them, so become blinder and the crisis augment. So this is where the thing happens. Instead of looking at the solution, we should look at the crisis. And since we don't look at the crisis, we don't look at the challenges, and we start blindly following the solutions, and in doing that process, we are not able to solve the problem, but we are in fact increasing the problem. And that is where the mindfulness or the meditation comes in. So this is what essentially I wanted to share, that what is the possible approach in this background where we have numerous problems, numerous solutions. How do we as an individual look at life and approach life? So to my mind, the simple approach is mindfulness. There are different words to describe the same phenomena. But one may call it as a mindfulness, as living in the present, conscious, aware, observe what is happening, present, be present when in the moment when the challenges are taking place, when the events are happening, unconditionally looking at those challenges, unconditionally looking at those crises. And that is the innate quality as a human being. If you see a small child, and if you happen to see a small child, you will find that the child is by birth, by nature, so mindful, is meditative, aware. The child forgets things. The child, if let us say, child is hurt at a present moment in time, but after 5 minutes, once the pain disappears, the child forgets about that pain. The child is fully present in the moment which is happening at that point in time. The child does not live in memory. The child does not keep on brooding over the incident that happened 5 minutes back or even 1 minute back. So that is mindfulness, that is meditation, being aware, and that is our innate quality, our inborn quality. It is only that because we live in a society which keeps on conditioning us from all sides since we get up till we sleep. And that is where the problem arises, that in that entire process of looking at the society, looking at the expectations of the society, looking at the solutions which are given by the society, looking at the standards which are set by the society, we forget our own innate quality of being mindful, of being present, of being aware about what is happening today. If we are able to cultivate or regain the simple quality of being mindful, of being aware about what is happening to us, then we ourselves are capable enough to understand which are the challenges which are really worth meeting, which are the challenges which are essentially required to be ignored, which are the challenges where what can be the possible solution to those challenges. We can consciously apply those solutions. We can consciously see how the solutions are working, considering your inner dimension as regards the problem you are facing, and then evolve with life. So this simple quality of being mindful, being aware, being meditative can help you in navigating this entire complex world of multiple problems and multiple solutions, because this will give you an anchor. This will give you a stable place within yourselves, which no one can disturb you, which no one can take it away from you. And from that place, if you operate, from that inner space, from that inner dimension, if you operate, you will have stability, you will have a deep anchor within yourself, and therefore you will not be swayed by the society, by the conditioning done by the society, by the suggestions which come from the outer world, from the society, and you will take your life in your own control instead of giving the control of your life to the society, and letting the society drive you, rather than you driving based on your inner sense of what is your purpose, or what is your fulfillment in your life. So this is where this concept of mindfulness and meditation comes in. So let me share my brief story of how I landed upon this approach of looking at life. So my first blush started when I attended a Vipassana retreat. Vipassana is a method for mindfulness which was developed by Gautam Buddha. It's a very simple technique where you just focus on your breath, the incoming breath and the outgoing breath. That makes you mindful, because that creates that inner space where you can be aware about your breath. And once you start becoming aware about your breath, you start becoming aware gradually and slowly. You expand the awareness, you start becoming aware of your body, you start becoming aware of your mind, start becoming aware of the ways of your mind, you start becoming aware about how the problems are created by the mind, you start becoming aware about the solutions to those problems. So that quality of awareness, if you attach with your daily life, that will give you that space where you will be able to meet those challenges with a very strong sense of anchor within you. So that is how I attended this retreat. It is a 10-day retreat where you are not allowed to talk with anybody. You have to stay alone, and you have to enjoy the aloneness. You have to enjoy yourself in the sense where you are. There are no mobile phones allowed, no digital gadgets allowed, no books allowed. In fact, and you are only on your own, and you observe for 10 days your own nature, your own mind, your own body, and that is the biggest education that you will get, and that will take you more closer to essentially who you are and who you want to eventually become as a person, and not swayed by the society's thinking. So that is where I started experiencing this mindfulness. Then I also tried other approaches just to see how other approaches also work. So J. Krishnamurti, whose quote I have just cited, his approach is that there are no methods as such for mindfulness. The only method is to be being present, whatever is happening now. Just look at it, develop that ability of looking at it, and gradually, as you develop your ability, your strength to be to remain mindful with will grow over a period of time. So he does not advocate any particular method. He simply says that you look at it, and you look at all the actions which are taking place in your life directly, not indirectly. Often we see that we keep on reading newspapers, mobile phones, etc., and we are more interested in life of other persons, but we are never interested in ourselves. He says that the biggest person from whom you can learn is yourself. So that is where he advocates, just look at yourself, just look at your own state of who you are, how you are acting, how you are working. Consider life as if that you are an actor, and that create a distance between yourself and your observation, and that will help you clarify a lot of aspects which today you might feel confusing. Then I also tried to look at poetry, because a lot of this space of becoming mindful, it's easier if someone has a poetic bent. Then one can look at Lao Tzu or Rumi. They are essentially poets, but they have very deep insights on this topic of meditation and mindfulness. So you can look at their poetry, you can look at few paragraphs of their poetry, try and close your eyes and experience essentially what is the experience which they are sharing. And once you start understanding their experience, and correlating it with your experience, a lot of dimensions will open up, a lot of hidden areas in your own psychology will open up, a lot of mental strength will be developed by this approach. Then we have this book called Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. It was, in fact, India's perhaps richest heritage, one can say, where nobody knows when this was written, perhaps 2,000-3,000 years ago. It has 112 meditation techniques. These are all possible meditation techniques which are there in the world. Today, the Western world is adopting these techniques, twisting those techniques, and selling multi-million books, copies of the books of these techniques. But the core of it lies in this book. It's a very short book. It has 112 techniques. And what the book in the introduction says, that no person on this earth, if person tries these 112 techniques, person will surely come across minimum 7 techniques, which the person will feel that it naturally comes to him or her. And then the book advises that then you should pursue those 7 or 8 techniques, which you feel is naturally coming to you. And which creates this more mindfulness, more consciousness in your life. So this is again book that you should try, and you stay with each technique for at least 3 weeks. Try that technique and see whether it naturally aligns with your mental makeup. If it does, then you continue and go deeper in that technique. And if it does not, then you can go to another technique, and that is how you can try these techniques. Then we have this modern approach, which Acharya Rajneesh Osho has, where he feels that in today's day and age, a lot of this meditations does not come naturally. It comes naturally to a child, as I explained earlier, but it does not come to the grown-ups, to the adults, because we are so much conditioned, so much saturated by the society's notions, society's ideas, that it's first important to clean ourselves and then naturally get into meditation or get into mindfulness. So his technique has that additional dimension, where what he calls it as a catharsis, where initially in each of his technique, half an hour will be devoted for removing all the junk that we have in our mind, so as to create that space within ourselves where you can then easily get into the mindfulness space, get into the meditative space. So that is the approach which for modern mind he has developed, looking at the fact that because the modern mind cannot easily get into the meditative techniques because of the junk which is so much there in the mind. And that is where his approach differs. So a person who finds it difficult first to get into direct techniques of Gautam Buddha or the Vagyan Bhairav Tantra, one can look at the approaches of Osho, experience those approaches. Once the clarity emerges, then one can look at the other techniques. Then the last approach that I tried, again, this is very much actionable, is this guided approach, where we have some speakers like Rupert Spira. He is a person who learnt Vedanta from India. He in fact stayed in Bangalore for years. He learnt Vedanta, and today in the Western world he is hosting a lot of retreats where he guides persons towards becoming more mindful, where you are supposed to sit and follow the instructions, and he will in fact through his voice guide you and nudge you to look at the reality as it is. And that is where you can also experience the space, the meditative space that I'm talking about. So again, this is something that works well for those who are not able to directly get into the basic techniques. So you can also try this. Audios are available on the internet. You can listen to that and experience along with listening how he guides, and that is how you can cultivate that meditative space. So the whole idea is that can we just look at the reality as it is, because that is what meditation is. Meditation, the word is used in today in a sense which is more confusing, but essentially the whole idea of meditation is simply to be present in the reality. That is the simple meaning of meditation. All these techniques, approaches which I have just discussed are all aiming towards that simple childlike state which was already ours when we were children, but we forgot in the process, where the society has put a lot of junk in our heads, and that is where we are finding it difficult to again get back to that childlike innocence, where we are able to use our own inner energies, our own inner calmness to meet the challenges of today's day and age. Can we listen without judging? See, recently a Harvard study suggested that there is a huge difference between hearing and listening. In fact, the study says, and rightly to my mind, that only 2% of what we hear, we are able to listen. Right. So see, how many of us, when we read the words, or when we listen to the words, how many of us really understand? There is a huge difference between hearing and understanding. Each word conveys a set of ideas, a set of reality which is behind those words. How many of us take time to really understand that? How many of us really take time to appreciate what essentially the speaker or the author is trying to convey? We are in so much hurry these days to just jump from one media to another media without essentially getting the message. And we feel that by jumping from one source to another source, we are learning. It is it is a fallacy. We are not learning. We are just trying to feel that we are busy, or we are touching upon your subjects, but that is not real learning. Real learning is to go deep into an idea, to understand how the ideas function, how the world functions, how the idea was evolved, and that is where then you are able to apply those ideas in the real situations that you face. So that is the second idea. Third, how many of us can see without preconditioning? Like in my field, any professional challenge that we come across, we try to look at that without any preconditioning, without thinking that this problem has no solution, without thinking that this problem is unsolvable. We look at every problem as if we are looking at it for the first time, and we keep our sense that it can be solved. There would be a way where we can approach this problem, and there would be a way in which we can solve this problem. So that is again an art which we can cultivate, of looking at the world without any preconceived notions, without any preconceived ideas. We have seen, like in my field, I have seen in my professional life, even Supreme Court making mistakes, where Supreme Court itself, even after giving rulings, are reviewing those rulings, are referring those rulings to larger benches, are correcting those rulings, etc. So it is not the case as if if something, if someone says this is not working, doesn't mean that it is not working. We have to remove all those preconditioned notions, and we have to look at the problem with our own eyes, with our own mind. And often you will find that a lot of solutions which were hidden would emerge by just looking at the problem without this preconceived notions. Can we find solutions on our own? In this day and age, this is the biggest challenge. Since we are not mindful, we are not present, we are all looking at second-hand solutions. We are all looking at solutions which are designed by someone else, second-hand solutions which are designed by systems, etc. But those solutions will never give us the fulfillment, will never give us that, will never evolve us in a sense in which we feel what the problem is and what would be the right solution to those problems. Always, I would strongly suggest that we should look at solutions in our own way, rather than adopting blindly the solutions which are thrown at us, or which are thrusted on us. Second last, can we act on our own intelligence? Oftentimes I see that if you shut the society, if you shut the outer world, solutions are simple, solutions are present. We have our own innate intelligence of looking at those solutions, but how many of us act on those intelligence? We don't act. So that small voice which is in us, which tells us the solution, is drowned out. That small voice which tells us that this is the solution. But if we don't listen to that voice, if we don't act on that voice, eventually that voice stops giving us the message. And that is where we get into misery, we get into mental fatigue, we get into where our mental well-being gets affected, etc. So start listening to our own intelligence. And to my mind, that is more than enough to meet all the professional challenges which you face on a day in, day out basis. And last, once, as my fellow co-speaker is also going to speak on this topic, can we be courageous? Because if we are having our own intelligence, then can we not act on that intelligence? Why we cannot act on those intelligence? We should be able to act on those intelligence. Then there should not be a person who should stop us. A recent example, in fact, one of the case that I recently came across, where the department harassed the client. The client wanted a relief. We went to the court. Once the petition was filed, the court said that now your grievance is resolved, so we'll now dispose of the petition on those lines. We had a conference with the client. We indicated to the client that, look, today if we don't raise this voice in the court, the harassment that you had to go through in this process, and only after filing this petition that your grievance was resolved. Tomorrow the officers will harass your fellow businessmen. Tomorrow, the same officers will harass other parties, and that will continue. So we have to be courageous. We will have to bring out this point before the court. There has to be some direction from the court so that this menace has to stop. The client agreed. We presented the case. In fact, the court was closing the file. We presented the case. We requested the court that kindly look at the sequence of events, how it has transpired, and only after filing this petition that the officers mended their ways. The court came very heavily on those officers. In fact, the remarks which the court passed in that order, the court directed those remarks to be placed in their officers' personal review file, and a heavy cost was imposed, and the court ordered this cost to be recovered from the personal liability. It would be a personal liability of those officers, not of the state, uh, uh, in that sense. So the whole idea of sharing this is that we will have to be courageous once we know our own intelligence, and that is not a rocket science. Once we know what is right, once we know where we as a collectively as a society, where we want to take ourselves, uh, uh, in what direction, then we should be courageous enough to act on that intelligence. We cannot then shut our eyes, lose the courage, and remain in that state. So that is what mindfulness and meditation will create. It will help you to listen to your own intelligence. It will give you that space, that courage to act on that intelligence, and that is what is required. If every person, I believe, starts appreciating the intelligence which him or her already have, and start acting on that intelligence, start acting on that inner wisdom, then it will not only result into a deep sense of fulfillment for that person, because the person is ultimately acting on his own being, but also create a better world, a better society for all of us. So before we part, these are the three quotes which I feel are will strongly indicate the message that I wanted to share today. First is what Mr. J. Krishnamurti said, that in oneself lies the whole world. And if you know how to look and learn, the door is there and the key is in your hand. Nobody on earth can give you either the key or the door to open except yourself. So change starts with us. Change does not start with the society. You cannot wish that somebody will will create a magical solution for you which will help solve all your professional problems or difficulties. It is you who will have to take the key in your hand, and it is already there. With more mindfulness, with more alertness, more awareness, you will be able to locate the key and you will be able to find the solution to your problems. So again, in the second quote, he says, if we can really understand the problem, the answer will come out of it, because the answer is not separate from the problem. This is what mindfulness will lead to. It will lead you to better appreciate the problem, face the problem, look at the problem directly, and that is where the solution will come, which will be fitting to that problem. And then at the end, what he says, it is beautiful to be alone. To be alone does not mean to be lonely. It means the mind is not influenced and contaminated by the society. So that is what eventually the mindfulness will take you to. It will not be a place where you will feel that you are alone in a negative sense. It will be in a place where you will appreciate your individuality, your own uniqueness, and you will not get influenced or contaminated by the ideas which the society will thrust on you. And you will act on your own individual, unique sense of being, and that is a very beautiful place to be. That will give you that anchor, that will give you that space within yourself, which will not be easily disturbed, which the third parties will not be able to uh, uh, damage. So with that, I thank the committee, to Madhukar sir, for allowing me to share some of my thoughts on this approach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your session. So we move on to the next speaker now. It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce our second eminent speaker, Ms. Supriya. Ms. Supriya is an accomplished entrepreneur, brand builder, and a founder of a leading direct-to-consumer botanical jewelry brand for India. What to begin as a modest experiment has grown into a successful multi-crore enterprise built not on perfect conditions but on consistent execution and resilient mindset. Through her entrepreneurial journey, she has worked closely with professional teams, systems, and stakeholders, gaining rich real world insights into how ideas are transformed into outcomes. Her experiences reinforce powerful truth: knowledge alone does not create progress, but execution does. In her title, Execution is a Mindset, she will share practical insight related stories and actionable perspectives on how professional can overcome hesitation, meticulous and inaction, and develop an execution first approach that drives tangible impact in careers, practices, and personal growth. Her perspectives will strongly with members attempt to convert plans into progress and intentions into influence. We extend warm welcome to Miss Supriya and invite her to share her insight with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Priyanshu sir, and thank you, Abhay Desai sir, for this wonderful speech. Every word you said makes a lot of sense. And I thank the ICAI Society, the committee for inviting me here to give this talk. So I'm going to keep it very simple and I'm going to rather share my stories and experiences on how execution was like this one simple key that changed my entire life. Okay, so I'm Supriya. I am 34. I am the founder of Leafy Affair. Leafy Affair is a brand where we create beautiful jewelry with real flowers, real leaves, and seeds. And we are India's first and the largest brand to come up with something like this. So let me take you on a flashback. 2016, I was a 24-year-old, simple middle class girl, ambitious, and I had this craving for learning and earning, of course. And I had done my master's in biotechnology, and I also did my MBA. I was working as a project manager at a medical agency, like, it was an advertising agency, but for medical companies. Okay. And our clients were Novartis, Amgen, pharmaceutical companies like this. And 2016, I was in between jobs and I picked up this one book called The 4 Hour Work Week. This book changed my entire life, I would say. This book is authored by Mr. Timothy Ferris, and he speaks about how he gives you a blueprint of how you can live your life. You can live the life of a millionaire by just working 4 hours in a week. So that's why it's called the 4 hour work week. And this made me so curious, and I read this, and the little things, it really motivated me, and I just executed it simply, whatever I could. And cut to 2022, I was on national television on Shark Tank India. I was pitching my business to the sharks, and lakhs of people watched that episode. I have a very successful business running right now. I have a small team, I have a great office, and I have learned, grown so much in this field. And we, till date, we create very beautiful new products that you will not find anywhere else or that you would not have heard of. And we have very happy customers. And how did this happen? So, from a simple girl to a successful founder. So, it all started actually with a small mindset switch. Okay, so when I was working as a project manager, I was in between jobs. Basically, how do you do this? So, when you're studying in school, you study, you get good marks. There's like a proper system, right? They tell you, okay, after 10th, you have to get good marks in 10th, and then you have these few options: commerce, science, bio, medical. And then you get good marks again, and then you get placements, and then you have to get your promotions. You work hard, and then you keep going through the hustle, the rat race, and then you get more money. And so you can get bigger house, bigger car, family, everything. So I was in that same rat race, and I was still working actually when I started my business. I took it as a small experiment. So when I read this book, The 4 Hour Work Week, it said about how, other than your work, you should have your something else where you're making sure you're learning a lot. A lot of us would feel easily trapped and saturated in the work that we do. And so many times it so happens we are working day in and day out, working day in and day out. Maybe at once in a while when we meet a friend or we take a Sunday out, we think, Arey yaar, I am kind of done with this. I need to do something new. Or maybe I should pick up this book and read. It can be small things to big things. But what happens the next day? We again go back to work. It's the same thing. The day starts, the day ends. And before you realize it next time, oh, I thought of doing this thing, you look back and see it's already months that has been passed, days that has been passed, or even years, right? So, how do we change that? I used to get a lot of business ideas, and then I would sit and nurture each of the business idea that would come to me, because I was already on a path. Okay, I need to do something other than my work, and I would nurture it. If there were red flags, I would just drop it. And then came this idea. See, all of us all the time keep having ideas. So, what made the difference? When I got this idea of flower jewelry or terrarium jewelry, I did a lot of research. I took some days. Curiosity led here. Important word to remember here is also curiosity. Curiosity can really take us places. So I took a few days, about 20 days, 30 days. I did a lot of research. And then I realized nobody in India sells this. Why? And after all my research, I found some people or vendors from different countries where I can procure my samples from, some raw materials. And at that time, my salary was around 33,000, and I had one car loan also. Like the EMI was around 17,000, and I just started off like it was my second year of career. So I did not have much savings. In my bank, I would have had around maximum 25 to 30K. That was my savings. Okay. So now at the end of the research, I realized that if I have to get my raw materials and try this experiment, which has a good percentage of chance that it might not even work. But I needed to spend about 12 to 15K or 20K to just get these samples. And these websites looked very spammy. They did not even look like they will send the products or whatever. But I had this one mindset switch. I need to take this risk and learn a lesson. If it works, then it's going to be very good. Maybe I'll then move on to the next challenge, move on to the next challenge. If it doesn't work, it's going to be one expensive lesson that I'm going to learn. And I just wanted to get to execution. Uh, there were a lot of blocks before I decided, okay, let me try. But I overcame them and I took the risk. I thought even if this 12, 15,000, which is literally half my savings, even if it doesn't come back, it is okay. I did the order, and then I did get the samples of my raw materials. It took quite some days, and then I made my first 10 pieces, just 10 pieces. I simply created some social media campaigns, I created a brand name, I created a logo, I created a website, I put it up. That's where it started. Till date, my initial investment, which was around 25,000, and our highest revenue so far has been 5 crores annually. I used the profit that came in that 10 pieces. I put it back into my business, and then I did multiple batches of designs. Of course, in this 10 years, there's been like so many different learnings, challenges, so many moments that I felt like I should give up, and so many unstructured very vague scenarios where I have to put a structure and I have to make sure things are done. But this whole 10 years has been the most fulfilling time of my entire life. I feel fulfilled. I feel like I have learned a lot because I am in the ground doing the hard work of getting my hands dirty and learning things by learning from mistakes. There's no book that says, okay, if you start a business called Leafy Affair, this is what you should do. Because I was starting something that no one has done before. The challenges are very different. The kind of blocks that come your way are very different. And just kept doing that, and here we reach. So what I'm trying to say is, execution is a mindset, and this is not like some kind of a habit that you start practicing. It is, I will tell in detail about how we can logically and practically use some practices so that execution becomes very easy. But in our mind, because in universe, right, there are always a lot of blocks or multiple steps that are put in your way the minute you think you want to do something. It's like as if the universe is kind of plotting against you and putting all these things at you, and it is giving you multiple steps to cross in order to really finish something. And what happens is, most of us, because we are so much in our comfort zone, we think, we whatever salary that we get, we're so used to living within that, or living within the kind of time freedom that I have. As CAs, I'm pretty sure you're all very busy, always catching up on timelines, catching up deadlines, and after GST is the income tax. After that, it is PT. All of that. I only know this because, as an entrepreneur, this is the compliance that I know, that when it comes 7th, I have to transfer some PT money to my CA, or on 20th is GST. I know of these things, but I'm sure you guys have like a lot more deadlines and lot more catching up that you do. And then, this other thing of wanting to do something else, wanting to grow, kind of gets missed out. So, so in execution also, okay, so as CAs, you are all exceptionally well, you're exceptionally amazing at keeping up with compliance, repetition, risk avoidance, and it's your profession is very strictly a time for money exchange kind of a thing. But this system has helped you keep your discipline. But the same system that is making you successful can quietly kind of box you in. And execution is wrongly understood by people. Okay, so there is two types of execution with structure versus execution with freedom. Because you all have this systems and deadlines by the government, by the clients, all of that, you make sure you will execute things and things are done. But what about execution with freedom? Imagine you did not have any deadlines, any of these rules or regulations. Would you still do all of this? Would you be willing to execute in the same manner as you do it in a structured way? This is something you have to stop and think about. And then there is also the type of survival execution versus growth execution. So as CAs, like before this webinar started, I was internally having this discussion, and Mr. Madhukar also mentioned how, we think we will execute something, but then it just gets stagnated. And, as a result, the next thing also doesn't move. The next thing also doesn't move. So it has like a domino effect. And what happens is, most of the time, we get pulled into survival execution, and we leave little time or energy left for growth execution. And the next type of execution, or the topic that I want to talk about, is busy versus fulfilled. You're all very busy for sure. No time for anything extra, because you're playing catching up with time. Like, time is ahead of you and you're just running behind it. But with all of this, do you feel fulfilled? Right? So now these six things that I spoke about: structure versus execution and freedom, survival execution versus growth execution. Are you busy or are you fulfilled? To break all of this down and to make sure you are running ahead of time and you're not playing catch up, there is a very simple method to do this. It's about prioritizing your time and breaking down your goals. So let's say I will just share my screen. One second. I hope, is my screen visible? Yes, okay, great. So, I would like you to first take a step back. I know it's very busy for you people where you hardly get any time, but some holiday or some Sunday or some long weekend where you do get some time, please take a step back. First thing is list out everything that you would like to do. It might not even feel like it's going to be possible, but feel free to just dream. It might be okay. You can put it into buckets: personal, professional, your own company thing, or something to do with friends, something to do with travel, something to do with spiritual. Put it in different buckets. Don't worry about how it sounds, or don't worry about how you're going to be judged, because that whatever you're going to write down in that piece of paper or your book, it is purely for yourself. You are not, no one is going to look at it, no one is going to read even the English and then say, hey, this is wrong, that is wrong. Or no one is going to judge and say, oh my god, you want to travel, like, is that going to happen? No, this is just for yourself. You put everything that you want in your life. Professionally, let's take an example. So I also Googled before this session, I Googled what is a career path for a CA. Please forgive me because I am not in the same fields, but then I wanted to really understand. And what I read was, you gain a lot of experience. So it's very difficult exams that you guys crack, and then you move forward. You do an articleship, and then you move forward. You work as a junior and you learn the nitty-gritties of accounting, taxes, filing, all of that, and then you slowly move on the career ladder, and it's at top management by 15 years of experience. But there was nothing beyond that. And one important thing that I understood is saturation in this field. Like, after a point, where else to go, where else to reach out to? And it's very important in anybody's life to have something to always goal at, like, milestone, to have milestones and to reach them and to achieve those goals, right? So I think it is possible if you do not look at the system as a system. Google gave me this 15 years higher management, but I think if you personally do a lot of things or personally work on your development and growth, there is a lot more to reach and lot more happiness to be attained if you just step out of the system. So maybe it could be building your own practice, having a bigger team, having a bigger firm, make it like a firm that most startups know or most old companies know, big private limited companies know, where you can pick your niche, right? So pick up all these dreams. Don't forget to fill in the buckets in the personal life as well. Maybe it's about spending good quality time with your family. With your kind of deadlines, I am not sure how much of a family's time you get to spend, or to do something that you like, that to travel or to read a book. Write down everything. Now, once you write down this picture that I have shared on the screen, it has two things. It's about important, not important, urgent, not urgent, right? So I would like you to write down whatever you've written down to then put into each of these boxes. When you're putting it, you will also not just write about dreams, you will also write about the current projects that you're working on, or the projects that you've started and it is stagnated and it is not moved forward, everything. And you will be surprised how, when you kind of divide these topics into these different topics: urgent, important; not urgent but important; not important but urgent; not important, not urgent. Okay, you will find a lot of things in urgent but not important, as in whatever you're doing right now, your daily life, you would be spending most time on the tasks that come under urgent but not important. Okay, just because it is the compliance and it's the deadlines and all of that. The next other the quadrant that you will be spending a lot some time on would be urgent and important, because they are both urgent and important, obviously. The most kind of underappreciated or underlooked at would be these two quadrants, which is important but not urgent, and not urgent, not important. Now, I would like to talk mainly about this quadrant that is not urgent and important. This is where real growth happens. This is where you will be able to attain your dreams. This is the place where you will be able to grow so much more than what your systematic career growth can give you. This would include relationship building or finding new opportunities, long term planning, preventive activities, personal growth, recreation. And these are like the fuel to your car. Like, if yourself is a car, and you're driving and you do not stop to refuel. I mean, it's more than refueling, right? You need to oil, you need to get it serviced, and all of this kind of sits at this quadrant two, which is important but not urgent. I know I'm repeating it so many times, but just thinking of it as, once you have this quadrant, next what you do is deciding a particular time of a week, just weekly once, a particular day, a 1 hour. Even though it seems like a very small time to attain so many tasks, that small 60 minutes of time slot in that 1 week, consistently done, will give you compounding effect, and it will really help you execute better. Okay, so I also do this. I, in fact, do this every year. I don't do the quadrant method, but I sit down, and end of the year, this time of the year, is when I look at all the things that has happened in the year, what I want to achieve the next year. Excuse me, sorry. What I want to achieve next year, and put it down in baskets, and make sure I relook at it every monthly once or 3 months once, and see if any of the things are, I have just written it and I've forgotten. I will look at them and I'll make sure to give time. So this is how you can kind of prioritize and make sure that the tasks that are not getting any importance now can be given that importance and given that time, and it can be done. So I'm just stopping this. Why is all this important is because many professionals, it's not that they hate their job, but they hate a lack of progress. And progress comes not only from your system, but also from your own personal planning and personal growth planning and execution. So, these are some common things that you would hear yourself saying. I'll expand once things settle. I'll build a team next year. I'll work on branding when I get the time. I want freedom but not chaos. But then I will do it later when it is possible. And this later, 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 unless you stop and say later is now, that now is never going to come, and it is only going to sit in the later. And it might be too long before, too much time would have gone before you realize what is happening. And also, one more important thing to talk about is we mistake execution to laziness. So let's say we would have planned, okay, this month I want to do this, or this week I want to do this, and we don't do it. It slowly, somehow, because it's in the back of our head, but we are not able to execute it, it slowly grows and grows, and it kind of becomes a monster. It becomes a task that you hate, you procrastinate on it, and you feel like, you'll start feeling guilty and blaming yourself. You'll think you're lazy, but I want to tell you, it is not about laziness. None of you are all lazy. Even I tell that a lot to myself. If at all I'm just, one day if I take little break, then I tell myself, okay, I'm too lazy today, I don't want to do this, I should move. But it is not laziness. It is just that you're waiting for some kind of certainty in order to move forward. You're thinking that, okay, there's this task. Okay, let's take an example. Actually, examples would be better. In your case, let's say you have started your practice and you want to expand your team. You're right now working 2 people. You want to make it 5 people. But hiring it is a lot of work for sure. You need to take a lot of interviews. You need to put out, JD, and then interview people and then shortlist them, filter them, do a background check, and then select them. And after that, the real task starts. Train them to make sure that each of you will have a different working style. So train them to match your firms or companies' style of working. But then I'm sure it is very hard to get to it, because you're thinking, okay, let me just finish these many clients and then I will put this up and I will hire, or let me get this break, or let me just finish off the income tax filing. So you're waiting for that certainty or like a signal. If we keep waiting, the stars will never align. It is never going to happen. So, how are we going to do it? So, the best thing whenever you have a task, even if it has become a big monster in your head or you just thought of it, I really love using my book and, sorry, you're not able to see it, book and pen. I'm old school, but write it down. And then what I do, even if it's a big task or a simple task, I write what is the first step I can do, which is very small. It might take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So the first step of kind of hiring people would be is to create one JD. Just create. Maybe a JD is already there in your system, or somebody else shared a JD. You need to just edit 1 or 2 words, right? Or AI. Come on, we have Chat GPT these days. Very simple. 5 to 10 minutes task only. The first step, you just write down the small steps. Break this entire big task of hiring into maybe 100 small steps, but it's okay. And then 5 to 10 minutes, it is very easy to find. You can do it while drinking your coffee. You can do it anytime. Finish that one small task, and trust me, the kind of feeling you get, the oxytocin or the dopamine that you get that you have finished this small task, will motivate you further to take up your next small task. It will take more time, little more time, to break that big task into smaller portions. But once you do that, your task is half done. So this is a hack to execution. Maybe this is a simple task that I explained, but even if it's a very big task, this can be done. I want to give you an example. So now it's been 10 years of me running a company, and I have faced so many different challenges. And last year, particularly, was difficult because our marketing team, which I have outsourced, they did some, goof up. And as a result, our cash flow was affected very big, and we had to take loan, and then we had to fix things. And as a result, I got burnt out. These things also have a mental effect on you, right? And then only in the last 2 3 months I felt the energy back, felt motivated, and then I realized I haven't launched a new collection in a very very long time. When you don't do something for a long time, or you get onto a new task for the first time, it can seem overwhelmingly big. And just this month we have launched the new collection. It took 2 months, but it has come out really well. And this is something it in our I'm because I do not know much of I'm not able to take examples from a CA profession. I'm taking my own example. A collection launch means first of all ideating the design, and so many times whatever you ideate in your head, when it comes down to reality, it does not come as you think it would. It is very unpredictable. You'll have to make multiple changes, and sometimes you might have spent 20-25 days and the samples come, you might have to fully scrap everything and restart from point one. And these things can be very draining. But just the thought that, okay, imagine I do my collection, I launch it, and it's a great success. The kind of results that I'm going to get, how my customers are going to feel, how it is going to be good for the brand, how the competitors will see us. When I think of these end results of what I want to achieve, that makes me go. So, the second hack of execution is whenever you want to execute something but then you don't feel the energy, write down your why for each task that you want to execute. If you want to expand your team, write down your why. Uh, Obviously, imagine your team became double its size, the amount of things that will be off your plate is going to be a lot, and the amount of the number of new clients that you can take is going to be maybe double, which is going to increase your credibility, visibility, your the money, everything. So when you list down 5 or 10 things that you're going to get at the end of when you execute something, that will be an instant boost of motivation, and I will assure you, you will get it to execute. And also, to address this factor about how I said we think of something and then if we don't do it becomes a big monster. The best way to break that monster or kill that monster is to do one small action regarding that big task. Okay. And another hack is
Is it
sometimes we might not be able to break everything into small tasks. It will, it might, like, the smallest task might take 5 days to do all of that. But how do you get your body and get your mind to start converting in that mindset is starting to take up small tasks, okay, just very small ones. And once you finish, it is going to give you a dopamine boost, and as a result you're looking forward for the next task. It's simple, like how we play video games, how you get kids to kind of try new things. Why do you think kids or any even adults get addicted to games? Because it's a very level based thing. The first level is very simple, very easy, but then you get a reward, you get some 10 points, and then you're like, yes, I did it, I can do it. So I will go to the next level. Immediately, I want to go because I want that boost of dopamine. So you will go, and then it is a little complicated, and then you learn, you do it, and then you get 20 points, you move forward. So you can hack your mind even for execution when it comes to work, professional things, spiritual things, your personal things. You can hack your mind. It is totally possible. So start with small mind boosting tasks and feel that dopamine boost, and you will get into that practice. And as I said, earlier in this talk, you can keep a certain time slot in the week where you will you know consistently do this. You will slowly, once you do this na, you yourself would have increased that time slot, or you're giving it more time, and as a result something you plan for 10 years later would have already done, and you feel good about it, and you're able to execute more things. Okay. And 1 second. So there are these three shifts that I want you to look at, because execution is not discipline, but it is identity. Like, how do you make it your identity and not discipline is, for example, you're sitting and watching TV, and the smallest task, you start getting up and going and doing it instead of thinking of it in the head or asking someone else to do it. That is how you become, execution becomes your own mindset and not like a discipline where you pick it up as a hobby once in a while when you need it and leave it. No, but if we practice it day in and day out with the smallest things, it will start showing an effect in the bigger things. You need to have a shift from not just you, even me, all of us, from I'll do this when I'm ready to I act and then I adjust. Maybe you won't have all the resources you need to finish a task or finish a project that you started, but you should not wait until you have all the resources ready. With many times for me, for example, I did not have any business background when I started. I did not have any entrepreneur friends. I was not from any business school, big business school. I did not have a lot of money, for example, because if that failed, that initial investment of getting my samples failed, then I didn't have anything else to go back to, right? I didn't have a lot of things, but I still decided to try. I was not a graphic designer. I just got somebody paid a small amount of some 3,000 to get one logo design. I was not great at copy. Back then, when I had to write product descriptions, I used to take 4 to 5 hours just to write one description. I was bad at it. Like, I used to hate essay writing in college as well. But then I took it up as one small task and I learned as I went. So don't wait for everything to be ready for you. You can do it, and imperfection is okay. Since school, right? Like, we are only encouraged to get good grades. A is great, B is not okay at all. 80% is not okay at all. And I'm sure for you people who've cracked this, CA exam is not a joke. And you guys have cracked this, and you really keep your, you want things to be perfect or make sure that it has to be good, otherwise it is not. Once you also get over that that intense craving for things have to be perfect, you will be able to execute a lot more, because as you go you can course correct, you can adjust. And perfection is a big block for execution. Okay. And also for you it's a time money exchange where it's like consultation and things like that. So a shift from time bound income to impact led work also might help in executing better. So I will kind of summarize what I have said in all of this. Self-designed goals will help you break out of the system and propel your career growth for sure. Much better than what you can do within the system. And some execution hacks that I have shared about writing down the goals and breaking them into quadrants: important, not important, important and not urgent, not important, not urgent, not important but urgent, and not important and urgent. So when you kind of break them down and put them into these four buckets, it is going to make your life so much more simplified. You can have a bird's eye view of what falls where and what you need to prioritize, and breaking them down into smaller tasks and making sure you hack your mind with a dopamine boost, and just making sure that execution is a mindset where you practice it on a daily basis with the small things, with getting a glass of water, and kind of projecting it on to your bigger things. And there's one more small thing. So if something matters and it needs a deadline, a first step is to be done in 48 hours. Like, what I mean is, I said you will break it down into a task and it's a 5 to 10 minute task, but you also give a deadline for that task itself. Say by 48 hours, you need to do it. Another hack is rewarding yourself. I did not talk about it. Whenever I take up a difficult task for myself, I reward myself. Maybe this sounds silly or this sounds like, little kiddish, but trust me, no matter how old you are, when you do this, it really motivates you and it feels like you are one with yourself, because in our mind we always have two sides. One part of the mind is saying, I'll do this now, but the other part of the mind is saying, no, this is urgent, we can leave it, let's procrastinate on it. But when you reward yourself, it feels like both parts of this mind are in sync and they're together and they're with you. And that kind of a support within yourself can really change how you feel, like the internal environment changes. So, this is also one important thing. So I will leave with I will finish this talk with one line. Stability is comfortable, but stagnation is actually expensive. And it is not, execution is actually not about doing more because you're not doing less already. It's about doing what actually moves your life forward rather than pull you back. um, Majority of majority of us end up doing a lot of things that do nothing, that do not impact our life or anybody else's life in any way. um, but taking some time to do what moves your life forward can have a lasting impact, for yourself, for the people around you, and for the environment and everything. And I'm sure it will give a lot more happiness and that make you enjoy your life more. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have today we have got 5 questions with us. So these are the both speakers can answer the queries. What is the single most critical mindset shift required to move from initiation to consistent execution in professional life?
Okay. Shall I take it?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. In fact, I spoke about it in the this thing that from the initial idea to make sure it's consistent, it is really hacking your own brain. People will say, no, you need to make sure you're consistent. Give it your time and you think about it. But it is hard. It is difficult to keep on being consistent. So try one of these hacks where you break it down into smaller tasks, or make sure that you reward yourself. And this simple thing can really help in execution, and make sure that from idea it is coming to something. It is more like the task is done and you have executed.
Abhay sir, anything from you, sir?
So I agree. The only aspect that I probably can add is that, see, many times there is this inherent fear that we have that stops us from executing what ideas that we feel are required to be executed. So once we are conscious enough and aware enough about those fears, and once we experience that those fears were effectively not at all fears in the sense that those thoughts really cannot harm us, probably execution will become more smoother and much comfortable in that sense. So better to face those fears head on, and that is how that temperament will get created to meet those challenges.
Okay, the next one is how can mindfulness practically improve decision making and execution when professionals are under pressure and short on time?
So that is where, see, basically, as I indicated, there are a lot of these mindfulness techniques which do not require much time. So there are certain techniques which probably only takes 2 or 3 minutes, like focusing on your breath. Right. So how much ever busy you are, how much ever stressed you are, you can always take 2 minutes out of your time, focus on your breath, try to center yourself, try to compose yourself, and see essentially what you are doing. Really, as Supriya ji rightly said, really is making an impact. Really, is it causing an impact? Is it something that you are actually like doing it? And that will create that shift, that will create that change in your thought process, which will probably help you manage and navigate those challenges more effectively.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing to add is somewhere I read about how time can expand. Time is not definitive, actually. Let me give you an example. Let's say it is, you have to go to office, you do your usual things, but this one day your gas geyser turned off or something problem, and then you have to call a person to get it fixed. You also have your child's doctor appointment. You also have a timeline, or even during exams, you haven't studied just the day before you start studying, versus a person who studies 3 days before and revises 3, 4 times. They might actually have the same result, because when you feel like you're under pressure and you have a lot to achieve, once you think, okay, this first 5 minutes I'm going to do this, next 5 minutes I'm going to do this, you actually end up doing. So there is this correlation between how we execute and how we have clarity in mind and how much time we have. The same amount of time can feel longer or shorter or productive or not productive. So when someone says, I don't have time or feel pressurized, you can again hack that by prioritizing and thinking minute to minute. Or that is too tight, of course, but it is totally possible to achieve things. You can expand time. So that is also possible.
One is why do capable professionals still struggle with execution, and how can this gap be addressed at a mindset level rather than a skill level?
Yeah. You are on mute, sir.
No. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, I thought Madhukar sir was
Yeah,
saying.
I was on mute because I kept myself on mute. You never know when cough or something will come.
Mhm.
So I was not able to listen to Abhay, who is like, for me, he is more important actually. He is my indirect tax man. So, but I could only see some part of his. But I was totally able to relate to Shripriya. And I'll just support some of the wonderful things she said. See, I have written 37 books jointly with various people. And unlike Abhay, I was never a brain. I was never a rank student. I am very average. But what she said about not being perfection, so my not being, I say it's okay, let there be some mistakes. Many times I post on LinkedIn and people say your language is all mixed up. I think 2 3 days you have worked on it and finally you posted it. I say it's okay now. You got the meaning, no? So without being a perfectionist, a lot of things can be done. Next time I can revise it. My central exercise book we revised 27 times, 27 years. Service tax book we revised 15 years. So obviously, by the time the 10th year came, the service tax book was flawless. There was no mistake at all. Maybe Abhay also used those books of ours. He has written some very good books, but I think he is a little more of a perfectionist, I think, but he can confirm that. Second thing is this procrastination, no, is actually a very good thing. We should procrastinate for small things, for silly things. Don't procrastinate for big things. In fact, I think on YouTube, on procrastination as well as that 4 quadrant, time management, I have posted a couple of videos. They may also be useful to the reader. One particular point she talked about, that which was correct. If you look at all your problems, what you face in that quadrants, and you'll start putting, say, all your issues, you will find that out of 100 issues, 70 of them will be sitting in quadrant 3. And for that, I've done a lot of work on this. So I have come out with one thought process, which any chartered accountant or any human being can apply. Number one, list out, which is the most difficult part. List out all your, what all you have not done in your life. It may be 20 years back. Your mother had asked something, your wife had asked something, your child had asked something. Write it down. Doesn't matter. Write down all of them. Then take a one day you sit with 3 hours, no disturbance. Look at each one and write down which of those you can technologically manage. There may be some technology. Nowadays, technology is there for many things. You may find surprisingly out of that, 100 things in that quadrant 3, 25% will disappear because technology can be used. Then the second one, which we sometimes don't do. I think this may be useful for you, Abhay. I don't know how big your office is. I am a big advocate of delegation. I'll train people in hundreds, not in one or two. Every time I do, I will train people. Today I was in a convocation where I trained 2,000 people in the hall to energize themselves within minutes. So train the people and delegate. Another 30% will disappear from that Q3. The next one you can look at is omit. Very important. Like Supriya said, what is not important? If it is not at all important for you, why are you doing it? I think Priyanshu, you'll remember this coaching. I did it with you.
We did it. We did it.
Yeah, we did it together. And so I leave out that will be another 30%. What is left? 10%. So this 10%, very important, you have to face it and finish it. You can't postpone this anymore. There is a small book which is around 500 pages or 50 pages. How many pages it is, Priyanshu? You also would have bought it. Eat the Frog.
Yes. 125 to 30 pages.
And it's in big fonts. So if you buy it, you can finish it in one reading. Eat the Frog. What it says is take all these things which are there, 5 years old, 1 year old, complete it. And what a freedom you have. Suddenly you have so much of time to do whatever else you want. So this is something which I thought that I should share with everybody. A little, what I would say, practical way of dealing with this Q3, which is a cause for many. It overwhelms many people. I have so much to do. So then finally I don't do anything. So I think it was very nice. And Abhay is this thing. I myself am a very big practitioner of daily routines. So I start with Vipassana itself. Yours also first item was Vipassana. So it depends. If I get up at 3:30, then I do 45 minutes, 1 hour. Otherwise, 4:30, I do 30 minutes. 5 o'clock, I do 15 minutes. And if it is later than that, then I don't do at all. But I try and see that I do it 4 or 5 days a week. And the silence part, which Abhay said, is actually very, very easy. You go to the gym, you're doing cycling. There's nothing much to do when you do cycling. You can complete your breathing. Take deep breaths, breathe out through your mouth. If you're cycling for 10 minutes, you've finished stillness, breathing, both. And both of them are good for our, calmness and whatever we are. At the age of 40, I had identified that I am one of the things which stopped my life, which had destroyed my life till then, was anger. Even now I am angry, I think. Priyanshu will get, no? Okay. But I think I become much less angry. Sometimes I act angry, of course. Nothing happens to me, only the other side gets impacted. So it was very nice listening to both of you. And I will also close because I have a job also. I am the chairman of the CMP committee, which is for expanding our capacities. While this has been my darling, webinar, so many people coming, sharing their knowledge, expanding us in a very, very big way. And therefore, what I was thinking is that, we need to look at many things other than the mental makeup also. Knowledge has become now essential. Many people say AI has come, knowledge is not required. I am saying it has become even more required. In fact, in our office, our office is also like Abhay. We also got a dozen experts. Some of them may be able to compete with Abhay also. I don't know. He is quite good. But I'm assuming that some of the people in our office are as good as Abhay. But I was telling them, you can't sit. Don't think AI has come now, nothing. Now it is even more important to learn new things, because even AI asking the right thing is important. What about Article 14, which specifies like this, if you are able to say, or if you are going to be able to say, what about the legal maxim which says like this, then AI will help you to get an even better answer. But you should know that article, you should know that particular legal maxim. You should have read that book by a famous lawyer. You should have heard the podcast of Arvind Datar. Only then you are going to ask that question in the AI or prompt it. So today prompting is become important, but for prompting, my knowledge has to be at a much higher level. Therefore, I think that AI is a facilitator for us. Lot of donkey's work which we used to do earlier has disappeared. In my time, Abhay, we used to bring down ELTs, one big pile. You were much younger. I used to fill it up with 3 desks, ELTs. Then I didn't know which ELT to refer, because so many ELTs with so many flaps. Then I had to keep an index for which ELT I should refer in which sequence. So one reply, 3 days, 4 days, and still we are nowhere. Now click, you get that information.
But let me tell you, sir, that
Yeah.
that foundational knowledge which gets created by your method, we cannot create that by using these softwares, because, as you rightly said, unless you know the basic principles, you will
Yeah.
go mad in the flood of data that now we have.
Yeah, that is why we are also trying to bring in some courses, vertical courses, one-stop shop. For example, clients don't want to go to too many people. So Priyanshu, Alok, our team has done a very good job. We have looked at real estate, one vertical, MSME, one vertical. Other than that, new age, we are looking at a lot of new things like virtual CFO. We are also looking at outsourcing. Of course, there are other committees which are supporting. We have also got some activities for ladies. Many of the ladies take a break because of whatever reason, children, or they were in a job and they didn't like it and they came out. After that, they didn't know how to get back. We have got wonderful courses called Practice Ki Pathshala and all, where a person can go back and quickly rejuvenate their practice. We also have for the freshers certain programs, orientation program we created, and it is actually today is the last day. 6 days it has run 3 hours, and this is for the freshers to get a leg up, you can say, in their jobs or in their practice. Many of the things are there. Our site cmp at ici.org or ici.in will make you reach the site and look at whatever is there on that. Many of it you can search for also. And I would recommend all the viewers to at least visit our site. Tell us what more you want. For example, we have covered maybe 25, 30 topics till now from September, but we need to keep on covering this. And if you can tell us what is that one quality you want, which you need to discuss, we can also look for speakers who exemplify that. For example, last time one of the ladies spoke about, she said, sir, I would like to speak about self-love. Now, chartered accountants, we know self-criticality. We can write one thesis on self-criticality. Self-love, as far as I am concerned, I think at this age of 62, I finally realized that it's possible to love yourself. Till then, I used to think it's only possible to blame yourself, shout at yourself, all in the mind and put yourself down. So when she said self-love, I said, Madam, you should come. And I think last week she spoke. I again was not able to listen to it fully. Priyanshu would have had the advantage of listening fully. So thanks to all of you and thanks to our viewers. Even today, Supriya and Abhay, 2000 plus. You know how many people you get when you go for seminar, Abhay, on GST? Third session or fourth session, you'll have 20 fellows. Here you have 2000 people online, plus 2000 plus. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it back to Priyanshu.
Thank you, sir. And the guiding force behind this initiative. So, and we come to the conclusion of this enriching webinar. And today's discussion have reminded us that mindfulness builds clarity, execution builds momentum, and mindset bridges the gap between potential and performance. So, on behalf of the committee, I extend my sincere gratitude to our respected leadership and distinguished speakers today, and all the members who have for making this session truly meaningful. We thank you for your active participation and encourage you to continue engaging with CMP's initiative aimed at empowering members beyond technical excellence. So, with this, we formally conclude today's webinar. Thank you, and have a meaningful, mindful, purposeful, and impactful professional journey ahead. Thank you so much.
Yeah, 2026 itself, they can do it that way.
Yes.